Samsy. Story time with Ronnie. All right, guys. Is this thing working? Test. Oh, it might be working. The Island of Dr. Moreau, Part 15. All right, we just getting ready to leave the Timber Camp campground up here in the Tonto National Forest in Arizona. All right, now this story. Island of Dr. Moreau. Where the heck are we on this thing? Oh, right, okay. So Prendick had just, kind of like passed out. Montgomery might have dosed him. Who knows? There, we'll find out here in a bit. But I'm thinking that he's just waking up from being passed out there, and he's starting to recall all the things that happened. You know, the guy chasing him in the forest and all of that business. So, all right. So let's take one more little look at this thing as I pull out of this here campground. I'm getting that's the host there with his setup, and straight ahead of us there is where that day use area is, and it's great to have a place to stop and take a break. Ronnie's a little bit tough to get in there. You can't. There's not a turnaround, so you got to know that you're gonna be. If you need to pull in there for some kind of reason or another, it would be best if you could. You could stop right there at the group area. You can see it right there. Don't be afraid to take a few minutes there. All right, so we're gonna turn out left here onto the freeway onto the 60, and we's heading towards the Salt River Canyon. So I guess that's probably east. And the big thing here is once you right out of the campground here, you gotta put your foot right in it right away. So make sure you're all warmed up and things are all looking good, because you're going to be giving it full power here pretty quick, and then right after that you're going to be heading down into the salt. So right after this here campground, things get you're on. All right, so let's take a look back at this book. Now Pendrick there, he was just waking up and trying to figure out just exactly what had happened. Okay, so here we go. I began to think, oh, no, let's go back a little bit further. He recalled, and then all of a sudden everything started coming back to him. And, and then he heard another cry, but this time it wasn't the puma. All right, so here, let's pick it up there. The cry came from within, but this time it was not the cry of the puma. I put down the mouthful that hesitated upon my lips and listened. Silence, save for the whisper of the morning breeze. I began to think my ears had deceived me. After a long pause, I resumed my meal. But with my ears still vigilant, presently I heard something else, very faint and low. I sat as if frozen in my attitude. Though it was faint and low, it moved me more profoundly than all that I had hitherto heard of the abominations behind the wall. There was no mistake this time in the quality of the dim broken sounds. No doubt at all as their source, for it was groaning, broken by sobs and gasps of anguish. It was no brute this time. It was a human being in torment. As I realized this, I rose, and in 3 steps had crossed the room, seized the handle of the door into the yard, and flung it open before me. "Prendick, man, stop!" cried Montgomery, intervening. I startled, deer-hounded, yelped, and snarled. There was blood I saw in the sink, brown with some scarlet, and I smelt the peculiar smell of carbolic acid. Then, through an open doorway, beyond the dim light of the shadow, I saw something bound painfully upon a framework, scarred, red, and bandaged. And then, blotting this out, appeared the face of old Moreau, white and terrible. All right, let's just take a peek at this drive here. Oh yeah, we just rolling along here. We closing in on the Salt River Canyon. Your options of doing something are getting limited. You get to stop at the top at the pea bottle stop, and that's about it. All right, so here we go. Let's continue on here. White and terrible old Moreau. In a moment, he had gripped me by the shoulder with a hand that was smeared red. He twisted me off my feet and flung me headlong back into my own room. He lifted me as though I was a little child. I fell at full length upon the floor, and the door slammed and shut out the passionate intensity of his face. Then I heard the key turn in the lock and Montgomery's voice in expostulation. "Ruined the work of a lifetime," I heard Moreau say. "He does not understand," said Montgomery, and other things that were inaudible. "I can't spare the time yet," said Moreau. The rest I did not hear. I picked myself up and stood trembling, my mind a chaos of the most horrible misgivings. Could the vivisection of men be possible? The question shot like lightning across a tumultuous sky, and suddenly the clouded horror of my mind condensed into a vivid realization of my danger. Yeah, they're gonna make a puma out of you. All right, that's the end of the chapter. That's the end of chapter 10. I guess we're moving on to chapter 11. Let's just take a peekaboo and see where we's at. Oh, we got quite the ways to go yet. Let me take a see where we're at. See if I can figure it out without my glasses on. Oh, nope, can't figure it out. Chapter 11. The Hunting of the Man. It came before my mind with an unreasonable hope of escape that the outer door of my room was still open to me. I was convinced now, absolutely assured, that Moreau had been vivisecting a human being. All the same, all the time since I had heard his name, I had been trying to link in my mind in some way the grotesque animalism of the islanders with his abominations. And now I thought I saw it all. The memory of his work on the transfusion of blood recurred to me. These creatures I had seen were the victims of some hideous experiment. These sickening scoundrels had merely intended to keep me back, to fool me with their display of confidence, and presently to fall upon me with a fate more horrible than death, with torture, and after torture the most hideous degradation it was possible to conceive. To send me off, a lost soul, a beast, to the rest of their commensurate. I looked round for some weapon. Nothing. Then, with an inspiration, I turned over the deck chair, put my foot on the side of it, and tore away the side rail. It happened that a nail came away with the wood, and projecting gave a touch of danger to an otherwise petty weapon. I heard a step outside, incontinently flung open the door, and found Montgomery within a yard of it. He meant to lock the outer door. I raised this nail stick of mine and cut at his face, but he sprang back. I hesitated for a moment, then turned and fled round the corner of the house. "Prendick, man!" I heard his astonished cry. "Don't be a silly ass, man!" Another minute, thought I, and he would have had me locked in, and as ready as a hospital rabbit for my fate. He emerged behind the counter, for I heard him shout, "Prendick!" Then he began to run after me, shouting things as he ran. This time, running blindly, I went northeastward, in a direction at right angles to my previous expedition. Once I went running headlong up the beach. I glanced over my shoulder and saw his attendant with him. I ran furiously up the slope, over it, then turned eastward along the rocky valley, fringed on either side with jungle. I ran perhaps a mile altogether, my chest straining, my heart beating in my ears, and then, hearing nothing of Montgomery or his man, and feeling upon the verge of exhaustion, I doubled sharply back towards the beach, as I judged, and I lay down in the shelter of a cane brake. Then I remembered, for a long time, too fearful to move, I remembered. There I remained for a long time, too fearful to move, and indeed too fearful even to plan a course of action. The wild scene about me lay sleepily silent under the sun, and the only sound near me was the thin hum of some small gnats that had discovered me. Presently I became aware of the drowsy breathing sound, the sighing of the sea upon the beach. Oh, let's take a look at this drive. Okay, so there's the I think that was the brake check area there. And yep, full of pee bottles. Pee bottles everywhere. After about an hour, I heard Montgomery shouting my name, far away to the north. That set me thinking of my plan of action. As I interpreted it then, this island was inhabited only by these vivisectors, these two vivisectors, and their animalized victims. Some of these, no doubt, they could press into their service against me, if need arose. I knew both Moreau and Montgomery carried revolvers, and save for a feeble bar of deal spiked with a small nail, the merest mockery of a mace, I was unarmed. So I lay still, there where I was, until I began to think of food and drink. And at that moment, the real hopelessness of my position came home to me. I knew no way of getting anything to eat. I was too ignorant of botany to discover any resort of root or fruit that might lie about me. I had no means of trapping the few rabbits upon the island. It grew blanker the more I turned the prospect over. At last, in the desperation of my position, my mind turned to the animal men I had encountered. I tried to find some hope in what I remembered of them. In turn, I recalled each one I had seen, and tried to draw some augury of assistance from my memory. Let's take a peek at this drive. Boy, that's a big old crack in the window. You know, I got it replaced just this last year, and it needs a new one again. hold out as long as you can, because it doesn't take. I think the new one, last one lasted maybe a month, maybe 2 trips before it got a little chip and didn't see it, and before you know it, it walked a foot across the way there, and can't be fixed after that. All right, so he's going to try to get some help from these animal people, and we'll see how that goes. How far are we in this thing? We're 16. That's not bad. We'll probably get to the bottom. I'm going to split this one up because I think this sucker's about 40 minutes long, and me, I got to hold my breath the whole time. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. So we'll probably get to the bottom here, and we'll cut it in half right at the bottom. That sounds pretty good. All right. Then suddenly I heard a staghound bay, and at that realized a new danger. I took little time to think, or they would have caught me then. But snatching up my nailed stick, rushed headlong from my hiding place toward the sound of the sea. I remember a growth of thorny plants with spines that stabbed like penknives. I emerged, bleeding, with torn clothes, upon the lip of a long creek opening northward. I went straight into the water without a minute's hesitation, wading up the creek. Presently finding myself knee-deep in a little stream, I scrambled out at last on the westward bank, and, with my heart beating loudly in my ears, crept into the tangle of ferns to await the issue. I heard the dog, it was only one, draw nearer and yelp when it came to the thorns. Then I heard no more, and presently began to think I had escaped. The minutes passed, the silence lengthened out, and at last, after an hour of security, my courage began to return to me. Ha! Oh boy, middle of summer. By this time, I was no longer very much terrified or very miserable. I had, as it were, passed the limit of terror and despair. I felt now that my life was practically lost, and that persuasion made me capable of daring anything. I had even a certain wish to encounter Moreau face to face, and as I had waded into the water, I remembered that if I were too hard pressed, at least one path of escape from torment still lay upon me. There could not very well prevent my drowning myself. Good luck with that one. I had half a mind to drown myself then, but an odd wish to see the whole adventure out, a queer, impersonal, spectacular interest in myself restrained me. I stretched my limbs, sore and painful from the pricks of the spiny plants, stared around me at the trees, and so suddenly that it seemed to jump out of the green tracery about it, my eyes lit upon a black face watching me. I saw there it was the simian creature who had met the launch upon the beach. He was clinging to the oblique stem of a palm tree. I gripped my stick and stood up facing him. He began chattering. You, was all I could distinguish at first. Suddenly he dropped from the tree, and in another moment was holding the fronds apart and staring curiously at me. I did not feel the same repugnance toward this creature that I had experienced in my encounters with the other beast men. You, he said. In the boat. He was a man, then, at least, as much of a man as Montgomery's attendant, for he could talk. Yes, I said. I came in the boat from the ship. Oh, he said, and his bright, Restless eyes traveled over me, to my hands, to the stick I carried, to my feet, to the tattered places in my coat, and the cuts and scratches I had received from the thorns. He seemed puzzled at something. His eyes came back to my hands. He held his own hand out and counted his digits slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Eh? I did not grasp his meaning then. Afterwards, I was to find that a great proposition of these beast people had malformed hands, lacking sometimes even 3 digits. But guessing this was in some way a greeting, I did the same thing by way of reply. He grinned with immense satisfaction. Then his swift roving glance went round again. He made a swift movement and vanished. The fern frauds he had stood between came swishing together. I pushed out of the brake after him, and was astonished to find him swinging cheerfully by one lank arm from a rope of creepers that looped down from the foliage overhead. His back was to me. "Hullo!" I said. He came down with a twisting jump and stood facing me. "I say," said I, "where can I get something to eat?" "Eat," he said. "Eat man's food now." And his eye went back to the swing of ropes. "At the huts." But where are the huts?" "Oh, I'm new, you know." All right, guys. We just got at the bottom and we're starting to climb up the other side, so let's just call it good for today. Thanks so much for coming along, and we'll see you next time. And let's just do this here thing. Samsy. And we'll leave you with a few moments of big old Rosie. You go, you big old Rosie.